If I could teach everybody anything, I'm going to teach you this. Stop having sex just to have sex. You are doing more than just having sex. You are doing an energy exchange. So you are now combining energies with somebody whom you don't even know what they got going on, what kind of karma they got, what kind of bad entities are around them. If you're a person that values your frequency and that values your energy and your path, you just can't be fucking everyone. And that includes like oral sex as well. Bodily fluid exchange, period, point blank. Kissing, sex, oral, all of that. It's bodily fluid exchange. Have you ever realized if you hang out with somebody and then when you leave that person, you feel weird, you feel tired, you feel drained, you feel just different feelings? Yeah, that's called energy exchange. So being able to signify the difference between a good frequency and a bad frequency comes with age, it comes with experience. But what I can tell you, anybody that's young, that's thriving, that's trying to make it, that's trying to do things, like, the devil comes in different forms, right? And sometimes it comes to you through a sexual desire. So clock in, be mindful. Hookup culture's dead. Yeah, just wanted to say that.
What's the best way to leave a one-night stand?
To take you in this room and leaving.
Pump it and dump it.
Leave that too.
That's...
You want them to leave you alone, that's how you do it.
I think he'll want you gone anyways.
Yeah.
I got a divorce in 2025 and went on a ton of dates, so let's recap. My major goal this year was meeting the love of my life, but if that wasn't gonna work out, I just wanted to get comfortable dating again after 7 years off the market. Had 15 romantic encounters, which sounds like a lot, and honestly, it was. The sources of
What you mean romantic encounter? That means she got pump and dumb 15 times in 2020. Damn, sis.
He belongs to the streets.
these encounters were mainly Hinge, followed closely by my DMs, then meet cutes at coffee shops, gas stations, etc. I was actually approached quite often this year, I was surprised. And lastly, FaceTimes or phone calls from Raya. The ages. One was over 50, most were between 30 and 35, followed closely by 35 to 45, one was under 30. Now, I instigated the demise of all of these dating situations except for these three. One dumped me after 3 dates. He was my favorite one by far, so figures. One, I met at a work conference. He love bombed me.
What I said, the men they want, not checking for them. Her favorite one dumped her after 3 dates. She lucky if it went to 3 dates. You know what? 3 dates is usually the date they run the pum pum. So maybe he dumped her after he got the pum pum. Makes sense.
Oh my God.
Makes sense.
Like crazy for a week and then died. Though I still see him opening my Instagram stories, so we will never know what happened to Bachelor number 2. Bachelor number 3 asked for a relationship after telling me he got a DUI, so that was a no. A lot of learnings through these dates, so here are my green and red flags. Of all of these 15, no one was judging my divorce. Absolutely no judgment from anyone, any age. People that I liked the most were the ones that slid in my DMs. It's also a good reminder that no one really wants to be dating. It really adds a layer of humanity when you realize nobody really wants to be there, but everyone wants to be in love. It's great. Now for the red flags. Raya is full of fuckboys. Only people I really liked came from Raya though, so I haven't figured that one out. Friends and I were talking about this today, that Hinge is potentially unsafe and likely is the new Tinder. My worst dates by far came from Hinge. Also noticed a lot of the guys on there that I recognized because I recognized them from being on the app literally 8 years ago when I was on it the first time around. So there's just a bunch of fuckboys on there too. Final red flag. Most dudes my age and older than me, I'm talking the guys between 30 and 40, were the absolute worst. So am I in a relationship? I'm not gonna force anything if I don't like someone. Reminder that these timelines are fake and you shouldn't settle with a fuckboy.
You know the funny part about this all? She's talking as if the men are the problem. Sis, you went on 15 romantic encounters and not one of them, not one out of 15, imagine having 15 options and not one of them said, okay, yeah. And the one you really wanted did not want you, he just pump and dumped you. And she's talking as if it's a flex. she's not realizing just how embarrassing this story is supposed to be. That is my biggest like shock with them all. Like, this is supposed to be a very embarrassing story, but you're coming to the internet to talk about it as if it's a flex. Let's see her comment section. Somebody said, all dudes in my comment not realizing it's a trend. Make your own templates. It's on Canva. I want to do this too. Many of them follow me on here. The thing is, this is not something to boast about. What do you mean you want to do this too? She responded to them and said, haha, I'll do it. I'll bully them. It's like, I don't understand the kind of world we're living in. I do not understand. This is not a flex. You went on 15 dates and not one of them took you seriously. The one that took you seriously, you claim had a DUI. It says more about you. This is supposed to be an embarrassing... Somebody said, laugh my ass off. I had a love bomber too. Oh my gosh, cut it off. I was too entertained by this. Love the content. Proud of you for dating after divorce. You're doing great. I am mind blown. But it's not to comprehend. We can't comprehend them. I wonder how old she is, because she said the men older than her, and then she mentioned 30. Let's see.
Extremely powerful men almost never settle down, and I think that reveals something kind of uncomfortable about male psychology. If you take a look at men with the most social capital, rich men, famous men, extremely attractive men, they all behave differently when it comes to dating. They don't settle down. They rotate partners, they sleep around, often with much younger women. You see this with celebrities and athletes and big CEOs. The more status a man has, the less likely he is to be monogamous. And you're like, yeah, well, obviously fame corrupts people, but I don't think fame corrupts them. I think fame removes the constraint. The average man doesn't have hundreds of women in their DMs. Monogamy isn't necessarily a moral choice, it's the only realistic one. But when a man basically has access to unlimited partners, you start seeing what he actually prefers. And for a lot of powerful men, that preference seems to be variety, which raises the question, if the average man suddenly had that level of social capital, would they still choose commitment?
The pattern has a rhythm now, and enough women have lived through it that they can recite the stages before the guy even reaches the third one. Overwhelming attention in week 1, a slight cooling in week 3, total silence by week 5, right around the point where investment was supposed to deepen instead of disappear.
Guys, what is this epidemic of men not looking for anything serious?
I will tell you why it's happening. It is because the rhetoric that is being spread, and I'm not saying this is every woman, but a large majority of women, is that they don't really want to contribute that much to the relationship. If you ask, would you ever buy your boyfriend a gift? They'll say no, that's his job. Would you ever take him out to a date? Oh my God, does he want to be a princess? Does he want to be a woman? What about double text him? What if you even compliment him? I stitched a video recently of a girl saying she doesn't even like to compliment her boyfriends because she's worried it will get to his head. So a lot of men start to realize, especially, I'm not trying to be rude here, after they've already been intimate with you, they're like, okay, this girl, she's not really doing anything for me. I'm always the one texting her. I'm always the one that has to initiate everything. Majority of the time, they might even be spending a good portion of money on you. So at a certain point, they just come up with an excuse and they're like, yeah, I'm not looking for anything serious, because let's be real here. What would be the dramatic difference if, during the talking stage of them dating you? Typically, if you weren't doing that much before, you're not going to change suddenly when you get into relationships. The girls that are seeming to have the most success with dating are the ones that aren't afraid to contribute to the partnership. It is not one-sided. I do know there's a large group of men who are still stuck and, totally don't have respect for themselves and, have brainwashed themselves to say, oh yeah, I don't mind, I want to lead, I want to pay. But there's a bad side that comes with that, but that's a separate video. But when guys say they're not looking for anything serious, it is because they have talked to you for a while. They kind of got a gist for, what they would get in a relationship. And in general, it's not going to make a substantial difference, going and being monogamous with you or being exclusive with you versus what they're currently getting. Because if you still want to hang on your high horse being like, oh, I would never do this for a man, I don't care until I get a ring, then that's your prerogative. But at the end of the day, this is why guys give that excuse. It's not really that they're not looking for anything serious. It's just with you. But that's just my opinion, but what do you think?
A lot of men nowadays are calling women hypergamous, which I think is quite funny because you clearly don't understand what girls are attracted to. Girls like guys who are confident and charismatic and have a little bit of swag. And it doesn't matter the proportions of your face. Girls aren't actually attracted to money. They will put up with somebody who they're not attracted to because that person has money. But that's not what you want. And this is why you see beautiful women in the South dating this chopped middle class fraternity guy who doesn't have a job. It's because he has charisma and he's confident.
All right, let's talk about hookup culture. How it leaves you empty, how it leaves you feeling completely drained. When you try to be in this generation's way of dating and you just hook up with people because that's how you feel in the moment, and then you wonder why you feel depressed and drained after the fact because you just gave the most vulnerable piece of yourself away to a person you don't even know for temporary satisfaction, for temporary numbing. For someone who actually is connected with themselves and wants something deep like love, you just having shallow connections and shallow intimacy with people leaves you feeling empty. It leaves you feeling drained. It leaves you feeling numb. It leaves you feeling absolutely nothing. And then you keep going in the cycle because you keep trying to replace those empty feelings with more hookup, with more dopamine hits. But we wonder why dating is so broken right now when most people are just literally not valuing intimacy at all.
He'll tell you flatly that the investment used to run for months before he'd let himself notice a red flag. Now the noticing happens in week 2, and the exit follows shortly after, because a man who's watched this cycle a dozen times isn't interested in gambling another 5 months on the 13th.
Here's my personal experience with being love bombed and then ghosted. My name is Sabrina. I'm a dating coach and a host of Do the Work podcast, and boy, have I fucking seen it all and experienced it. And after talking to my therapist, listen, I'm not somebody that will diagnose people, but typically people that love bomb and then ghost are narcissists. That is part of their idealize, devalue, and discard behavior. And at the end of the day, love bombing is a means of control. The love bomber or the narcissist wants to make sure that they are the center of your world, and all of your boundaries are now going to be reshaped based on that. So they can push, and get what they want until you open your mouth up and say something. And that is usually when they boop, are gone, or when they realize that they've gotten what they wanted or their validation needs have been met, they're out. And to them, there's nothing to fix because there were no emotions to be part of it. They were doing this as a means to fuel their own desires and to get their validation and to feel good about themselves, because narcissists or anybody who's avoidant has a very low self-esteem and low vision of self, but they put themselves on a pedestal because they actually truly believe that they are above everybody else. Very interesting dynamic. So anyways, last summer, I was on Raya and I matched with this guy. I lived in LA, he lived in San Diego. And I remember when we matched, he was like, listen, I'm in LA all the time. I'm shooting there all the time. I always have shoots, blah, blah. Are you cool with this? And I was like, yeah, it's only 2 hours. Like, no big deal. I don't really care. And when we started talking, I remember it was like the texting was pretty frequent. I was out shopping with my mom and she was like, oh, this is sweet. Like, okay, cool. I'm excited for you. And then it progressed. It got to the point where we were texting all day, like morning and night. And I remember he like was working as a teacher and all this. And I even kept thinking like, where are you getting the time to text me this much? And it was laying it on thick. I was the most intoxicatingly beautiful woman this guy has ever met, and there's a connection and he feels like our souls have known each other, and it was laying it on fucking thick to the point where like my mama said, yeah, he's too sweet and getting it too fake, and it just felt like a lot. So as the week went on, we were texting each other nonstop. We were sending videos and sending photos and things, and he just kept saying how he couldn't wait to have me in his arms, and of course the conversation kept progressing into things that we want together in the future. I had never fucking met this person. I was creating this entire situation based off of a few text messages. So a few days later, I finally was like, all right, cool. Like, this has been fun for a few days, yada, yada. But like, and this was when I was still kind of in my unhealthy mindset. And I was like, cool. So what are we going to do here? And the minute I started, so we had the idealized phase, put me on the pedestal. The minute I started saying, all right, shit or get off the pot, like, what are we going to do here? And started challenging his narrative and what he wanted to happen here. That's when the devalue phase kept coming in. It was, God, you're being so needy right now. I'm busy. Or, geez, I said I was going to see you. Like, why are you trying to be, your anxiety is starting to push me away. And all the while, all I said was, cool, are we good for this weekend? Like, what's going on? And so then I was like, okay, started seeing the texts were getting more space in between each one. And I was just like, all right, whatever. Saturday rolls around and he was supposed to come to LA where I was, and we were going to spend the day together. Yada, yada. And sure enough, I get fucking ghosted and I don't hear from him, nothing. And finally, hours later, when I was like, are you fucking kidding me? He makes up this crazy excuse that I knew wasn't true because on Instagram, he had posted photos. It was stupid for him to lie. And we had been friends on Insta and like messaging. So like, I knew he was a real person. And at that point I was done. Fast forward a month later, guess who calls me and FaceTimes me? Okay, everything's good in my life now. I can pick back up on this. Not even trying to say, listen, let me make it up to you and come see you. And sure enough, he calls me and we talk. And when I said, listen, I found it really inappropriate, the behavior that you pulled completely gaslit me and everything was my fault and took no ownership and how I did all this. And I finally just said, you know what? I think let's agree to disagree. Take care. And he just said, fuck off, and hung up on me. And that is the prime example of a fucking narcissist. And after going over it with my therapist and looking into it, and that's what we established, was this person idealized me, then he devalued me, and he discarded me like nothing. And the funniest thing about it all was I was talking to my friend, and we found out he did the same fucking thing to her like 4 months prior. The same nonstop texting, the same verbiage of how he goes into LA all the time and blah, blah. And she kept saying, I don't know, this guy and I were supposed to meet, and he just like never kept, never was doing it, would come up with an excuse. And she was like, I finally was just done with it. And we realized it was the same fucking person. And moral of that story is, somebody who will love bomb and ghost, this is not their first rodeo. This is their fucking MO. Fixing this. To them, you are just a means to an end. You are just there for their validation and hit. So once they've checked off all the boxes and they've gotten what they want, they move on to the next, because they don't even have an awareness around themselves as to why they're doing this or what they're even doing. And they keep seeing it as it's everybody else. It's not them. They just aren't meeting the person that they want. And it was so fucking easy to walk away from this, because I knew in my head, I didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, what I did wrong was I allowed it. That was my part in it. I should never have allowed this. I got swallowed up in it because I'm a fucking human. And at the time I was unhealthy and I wasn't really on that headspace. And I was thinking, if a guy's texting me all the time, he must want a relationship with me, right? Well, I think we all know the answer to that. And this guy's still single and on the apps doing the same shit, because another one of my friends told me that the same thing happened to them. It's not personal, I promise. It's not just you. This is what they do.
A lot of you guys are giving up the coochie way too easy. I do not participate in hookup culture, and I'm going to tell you why. As a 37-year-old mom of one, I have never participated in hookup culture in my entire dating. I don't want to say it's a career because that makes it sound like I'm a serial dater, but in the entire time I've been dating. I am a serial monogamist, and unfortunately that hasn't really worked out for me, but that's neither here nor there. I do not participate in hookup culture. So if I'm going on a date with you or we're dating and I do not see a commitment or a future with you, there's no way. It has become such a social norm to just sleep with anyone. Like when you first meet them, if you feel like it, if you have the urge, people don't have self-discipline. And don't come at me if you're like, my bottom, my right. Like, no tea, no shade. Do whatever you want to do. I'm just saying my perspective on why I don't think it's a good idea. And this is for men and women when I say this. So these are exactly what you're doing when you're just like serially sleeping with people. Serially. When you serial sleep, whatever, you know what I mean. When you hook up with everyone. Number one, and this is like really primitive, so keep in mind this is 2025, but I'm going to speak from a primitive perspective. Mating is supposed to be a way to like lifetime mate, right? So you're with somebody, you are committed to them. That is not the case anymore. Everyone's just sleeping around, so it means nothing, which is so silly to me. Like, it should be special, it should mean something. And I'm not religious, so don't come at me and be like, yeah, well, that's what God said. I don't give a shit. I'm talking from a biological perspective, okay? And for those of you who are gonna go and say, but you're always saying that men always cheat, that all men cheat, that it's inevitable that they'll cheat. I say that. They will cheat on you. But what I am saying is when someone is in the dating process and they're just like sleeping with each one of their people, their mates, quote unquote, they don't have that like protective instinct over anyone. They need to choose one. Number two, you are opening yourself up to a world of STDs, okay? HIV is at the highest it's been in years. STDs are not hard to get. And you don't want to be the one stuck, and again, I don't want anyone who has this to come at me with like I don't want to say an incurable because I think HIV is the only one, but I'm sure there's other ones. I'm not a doctor. But like, you don't want to get an STD from somebody. I don't care if you're using protection. It's still really easy to get like herpes or anything like that. I'm bringing this up because I have been dating a few men and I think they got the idea that like this was gonna happen. No, I don't sleep with people like that unless there's an instant connection and I know for a fact there will be a future with you or at least a commitment. That's just not gonna happen. Like a few dates ain't gonna cut it. Thanks for the dinner. Now beat it.
Ghosting isn't rare anymore on either side of this, but the numbers tell an uncomfortable story for anyone hoping to pin it entirely on men. Recent surveys actually show women ghosting at a slightly higher rate than men do, which makes the outrage online a little harder to square with the actual behavior happening in private.
So this is a super unpopular opinion, which is fine because it means that everyone's wrong and I'm right. But basically, if you're on a dating app and you're older than, let's say, 24, 25, if you're looking for relationship status is like open as short term, not sure what I'm looking for yet. I'm sure you're such a player that you cannot settle down, and that's why you have that there, right? Right? That's literally the only reason you're such a player. You're so good looking that you can't settle down because you're too handsome to be with one girl. Even if they're 6,000 miles away, you gotta have them all. I'm sure. Like a 25-year-old, not sure what they're looking for and open to short term. I'm sure that's not the only thing that's short.
A lot of women wonder why their man doesn't want to settle. And the reason that is because not all men are supposed to be kings. Some men are priests. Priests are men who go about in the world, like in the definition of a priest in the church, except they roam amongst us. They're a priest amongst us. God is amongst us. So these priests, they are men in the world who bless women and other men with possessions, with security, sometimes with children, with business agreements for other men. They work in solidarity. They don't try to create a kingdom for themselves where basically they are the king. They just work as priests. They have very good intentions. So if a woman is wondering why this man is treating her so well and so on but doesn't want to settle, it's because he's a priest. This isn't the worst option to be with as a woman, because many so-called men who are kings are just tyrants. They're not really honorable kings who can carry the crown. Also, unfortunately, what happens is that some of them are just sun kings, meaning that they're trained to be kings by their mothers, but they're not actually internally kings.
Wasted time is a fair complaint when it's actually true, but a lot of these stories skip the part where she was also weighing 3 other options during the exact same window, keeping him warm in case the others fell through. Getting pumped and dumped stings less when you notice you were doing some quiet pumping and dumping of your own on the side.
I think the dumbest thing that I've heard about looks maxing is the hypergamy thing. Hypergamy? I don't know. Whatever, you know what I mean? About how, like, the top 10% of men get all of the girls and the rest of dudes get nothing. I have never, ever seen a couple where the dude is more attractive than the girl. Ever. Actually fucking never. The most beautiful woman on earth and the most beautiful man on earth, compared to each other, he's like a 6 and she's like the fucking sun. Okay? Do you guys even like women? I'm sorry, what?
Are men more likely to settle in their relationships? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll give you my opinion on why this is. So, you know how there's that quote that's like, women are with who they want to be with and men are with who will be with them? I feel like this really much applies here. I feel like generally speaking, for the most part, women have more options than men. So a lot of times the person that men typically settle with is a person that's usually more based off of convenience. And I think this is when men choose the person that they think is a little bit maybe inferior to them. But if that person does the things that they deem to be important, which is usually in the form of pampering them a bit more, maybe someone that's going to be like catering to them, things like that, then they will make that sacrifice. And then in turn, always kind of like have their eye open as to like something better. Because they deep down feel like they could have done better, but sacrifice that better option for the one that kind of like takes care of him. That's my hot take.
She isn't pulling back or losing interest. She is testing to see how reactive you get to her absence, which means what she wants to know is, if I'm not right here texting you, or if I'm not right here beside you talking to you, do you get nervous that I'm never going to talk to you again? Do you get scared that the relationship is over? She wants to know if you're secure and okay all by yourself. So a lot of times she isn't pulling back or losing interest. She is testing to see how reactive you get to her absence. The key here is to show strength and not get reactive. And I'm going to explain why. And also what you have to understand is if you want to keep your relationship going and stable, you have to learn how to do this.
Nobody built this pattern on purpose, it just emerged naturally once dating apps turned every match into one option among 50 others sitting in the same inbox. When the next possibility is always one swipe away, the incentive to work through friction with the current one collapses fast. For men and women both, convenience killed patience before anyone noticed it happening.
It's Valentine's Day, and 70% of men are choosing to stay single. And I don't even blame them, and this shouldn't be a shock to anybody. Dating in this generation is so impossible, and I can talk about it for literally days. It feels like every single woman in this generation is either a gold digger or a bop or both. And so yeah, a lot of men are saying, we choose to be single, we're not gonna deal with this anymore, and I get it. I wouldn't either. That sounds awful. I just saw someone say something today about how I would rather be single than settle. And yeah, me too. I get it. That's me too. But it's crazy because you'll see women come online and be like, men are so sad and they're so single and they're so alone, but not me. I'm having a good time, just the men are having a bad time. And it's like, girl, be so serious for 2 minutes. Anyway, so happy Valentine's Day to all the singles out there. We see each other. We're right there.
As much as I don't love the idea of this video being out on the internet, I also think that it's actually wrong to withhold information that I have that could potentially help one of you guys. So, hookup culture really does suck for girls, and I can only speak from the female point of view, but if you think about it, you allow someone to live rent-free in your head for a very long time. And I always say this, but small decisions that you make actually have such a lasting impact on your life. And it's usually not one big decision where you're like, F this, like I'm over it, I don't want to follow God anymore, I don't believe in it. It's like those small decisions and then shame compiles. And I hope that someone watching this can remember.
The pattern isn't universal, even if the algorithm wants it to feel that way. There are still men building things that last, quietly, without posting about it every week, because the ones actually doing the work rarely need an audience to confirm it's real. The loud cycle gets the clicks. The quiet consistency gets the actual outcome worth having.
Hookup culture will ruin you as a woman. And God can restore you, God can restore that, but save yourself from the work if you can. I am somebody that grew up in hookup culture. I mean, I'm assuming that all high schools were like this, I don't know, but the high school that I went to, it's like everybody slept with everybody. And it was just a normal thing that people would do all the time. And I remember being very innocent, obviously, as everyone is at one point. I got a boyfriend. He went to an all-boys school, and he was just a lot more sexual than I was when I met him. And I definitely got into things because of him, like doing a lot of first things with this person, etc., etc. Not really being comfortable doing it, but doing it because I liked the guy. And then I had a really bad heartbreak with him. But because I equated love with that feeling that I had with him, I went searching for it in other boys for years until I graduated. I met this boy when I was 14, 15 years old. And then like after that heartbreak from like 15 to whenever, like 19, 20, I was just sleeping around. Some one times, some were like consistent friends with benefits that lasted for a while, to be honest. And then I got married. And that was interesting because that brought up a lot of spiritual warfare. Like when I really understood, wow, this is what Jesus was trying to save us from. Like when God tells us, like marriage or that sex is for marriage, it's for two married people. And my husband made the greatest point the other day. He said that in the Word of God, when God went up to the woman at the well and he asked her a question of like testing her, how many husbands have you had? And my husband was like, I don't think he was asking her like literally how many people have you married, but he was asking her how many men have you slept with, because, you know, back then, if you had sex with somebody, you were married. Like, you had to marry that person. It was no joke, because it was and is for two married people. There is an intimacy. There are things that happen when you are having sexual intercourse with somebody that is just for married people. That's just the way it's supposed to be. That's how God designed it to be. So when you as a woman or a young girl are sleeping around with a bunch of boys and thinking that it's cool and thinking that it's bringing you value and thinking that, you know, it's just like the thing to do, and it makes you feel some type of way, it makes you feel a little bit haughty, it makes you feel like you can do battle by yourself and whatever, it's not true. It's doing a lot of damage. And when you get married, if you have had sex before marriage, you are going to have to pay the consequences for those sins. And I'm not saying this to scare you. I don't hear people talk about this enough. I'm not scared and I'm not ashamed to talk about my past, because I'm redeemed and saved by the blood of Jesus. But now I want women to understand, like, it's not cool. And the reason why you're doing it is probably because you have daddy issues, you have heartbreak, and you don't understand your identity and your value. And I'm not saying that to shame you, but I do want to shed light on the reason as to why you're doing it, because I know for me, that was really the main reasons. Because I promise, if you had a dad in your life that spoke life into you and told you how to respect yourself, you wouldn't be doing it. If you were in love with somebody and they didn't break your heart, you wouldn't be doing it. There's really no other reason. It all leads back to an identity issue. And I talk a lot about dignity, because I remember one day God was speaking to me about this when I was building a relationship with him. And one day he spoke to me in my room and was like, I'm restoring your dignity. And I started weeping, and I was young, and I was like, I don't even know what that means. But something in my spirit knew it was like, I'm restoring your self-respect. I'm restoring your sense of like self, and it's crazy because also in the Word of God, God tells us that he will give us over to, like our lustful desires if we're just choosing to live in rebellion, we're choosing to live in those sins, and we just become so numb to those things. And it talks about how it makes us feel like disregarded, like wasted goods. And I feel so bad for the women on here that think OnlyFans is like a great way to make money, or you have this beautiful girl on here that I see all the time and I follow her because I think she has a great personality and she's so sweet. Her name is Ari, but I think she's a mattress actress. And the reason I follow her is because I have so much compassion for her, because I see how she talks about things. I see how she has made it an identity for herself. And I see how she tries to make it about like, well, it makes me a lot of money. Like I get to take my family on vacations and do this and do that. But I know what it is doing to her internally, even if she doesn't, because people have to be willing to see that it really is that deep. And just because people weren't recording me doesn't really make it any different. Just because I didn't have the title of a mattress actress doesn't mean that I pretty much didn't perform in the same ways that they perform, just with a camera in front of them, And this goes for men too. It's not right. And it has taken me so much to enjoy sexual activities inside of my marriage because of the warfare. Like the enemy doesn't want us to enjoy sex in our marriage, but he will want you to enjoy it outside of it as much as possible because it's perverted, it's wrong, and it goes directly against the word of God. But what you may not realize as a young girl or woman that is stuck in hookup culture and you think it's cool to like have a little DP, and it's chipping away at your dignity every single day. Every single time you do it, even if you don't feel it. You feel like it's boosting your ego. You feel like it's giving you some sense of self-worth. All the while, it is diminishing it every single time. And I feel bad for these women because I used to be that girl, but I feel bad because all you want to be is chosen and valued and loved and respected. And you're in a conflict because you don't realize that you giving your body up like that to a complete stranger, to somebody that you are not married to, does not earn you that respect. And ultimately, your dignity, your value anyways, doesn't come from you opening up your legs to a guy just because he wants it. It doesn't make you better than the girl who didn't do it. And it doesn't matter if he has other options and chooses you. It's not because you're more valuable in that moment. It's because you're easier, you know? And I say that with all the love because, man, I wish someone talked to me like this when I was younger, and I'm sure I wouldn't have received it well, but I hope that you can feel where my heart's coming from. It is destroying you. Hookup culture is destroying you, and you can stop right now, today, make the decision, invite God into your life to say, God, I want to stop this. I want to know what it is like to actually be valued and loved and chosen. And God gives you all of those things. God chose you. God loves you. God sees you. He doesn't base your value on you doing things for him. It's just because you are his daughter. And you may not be really religious or any of the things. Like, I didn't grow up religious. I was like the hoochiest of hoochies, and I thought it was like the best thing in the world, you know? And I had the attitude, and I had all the things, like everything, every attitude that you're probably feeling or whatever while hearing this, I was. And it is only by the grace of God that I was able to heal from this. But just know that I am paying the consequences in my marriage. And it has been such a long journey. And I definitely will share more. But right now I'm in the midst of it. And it's been a while. So this is just a reminder to save yourself for marriage. And if you haven't, just know that God can redeem your dignity, your identity, and your self-respect, as well as your purity.
The most useful comment section in this entire conversation is the one where a woman admits she's done exactly the same thing to a man who didn't deserve it, usually somewhere around the second paragraph of a much longer story about being wronged herself. Accountability doesn't cancel out what happened to her. It just makes the picture a lot more accurate than the version getting posted for sympathy. Alpha Reloaded. Subscribe. Drop your experience below. Ever been on either side of this pattern?